All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're uncovering how a purely utilitarian work vehicle evolved into the ultimate symbol of the American dream, how it was literally killed off by a legal loophole, and, spoiler alert, how it secretly took over our modern roads. So, who killed the American station wagon? Well, before we solve the mystery of what actually happened to America's greatest family car, we really have to look back at the massive cultural impact it left behind. If you look around today, you might think the station wagon was just some brief, quirky fad. But honestly, for over 4 decades, it was the absolute, undeniable king of the American road. Seriously, if you were born before 1980, you almost certainly have a visceral memory of the classic American road trip. It's like back then, the station wagon was this magical box that moved the American century from one place to the next. I mean, it was the minivan before the minivan and the SUV way before the SUV even existed. You just loaded up the kids, the dog, the camping gear, maybe a random sheet of plywood, and you hit the highway.
Section 1, the Depot Hack Origins.
Okay, so that idyllic 1950s family cruiser we all picture, that is actually a far cry from the vehicle's true origins. Back in the 1910s, right in the middle of the railroad era, the earliest wagons were quite literally just wooden boxes. Independent manufacturers and local carpenters would take a standard Ford Model T chassis and literally just build a hardwood cabin right on the back. They called them depot hacks because they acted as hackney carriages, basically hauling cargo, luggage, and people away from train stations. There were no roll-up windows, just side curtains. They were purely meant for hard, rugged commercial work. When we look at the timeline, you can see how the wagon builds from this commercial wooden bus in the 1920s all the way to the steel-bodied family hauler that totally dominated the late 20th century. By the 1930s, these vehicles were definitely becoming a bit more enclosed, but it was really the post-war era where, well, everything completely changed. Section 2, the Suburban Golden Age. So following World War II, a booming middle class and the massive expansion of the suburbs meant that millions of families suddenly had a huge need to move kids, groceries, and weekend gear all at the exact same time. And the station wagon? It was the only thing on the dealership lot that could handle all of it. Enter the Ford Country Squire. That massive number 41 right there represents its incredible production run, from 1950 all the way to 1991. That makes it one of Ford's longest-running name badges, literally beaten only by the Thunderbird and the Mustang. When the Country Squire launched, it completely shifted the wagon from a commercial workhorse to an absolutely premium family car. The work truck nobody really wanted suddenly became the family car everybody simply had to have. And to keep up with the baby boom, automakers engineered some truly brilliant, family-friendly features. Take Ford's revolutionary Magic Door Gate, which was introduced in 1966. This was a two-way tailgate configuration. You could fold it down flat to slide in heavy cargo, or, and this is the cool part, you could swing it open sideways like a standard door so passengers could effortlessly climb into those rear-facing seats. It was an absolute game-changer and quickly became the industry benchmark.
Section 3, Rise of the Fake Wood.
Now, as the wagon grew in popularity, it developed this fascinating, almost ironic relationship with its own history. We all remember that classic woody aesthetic, right? But the truth behind those wooden panels is actually one of the auto industry's best-kept secrets. See, because real wood rotted, squeaked, and required 3 completely separate assembly plants to build, including Ford's massive Iron Mountain plant just to mill the lumber, automakers entirely ditched real wood by 1952. But buyers loved the look so much that car companies spent the next 40 years just gluing stickers of fake wood onto steel cars to maintain the aesthetic. Yep, America's most iconic wood-paneled car was, for almost its entire life, basically just a steel car wearing a wood costume. And as these wagons got bigger, they became absolute monsters on the road. Towards the very end of their era, massive body-on-frame wagons, like the 1990s Buick Roadmaster Estate, were true sleeper cars. I mean, they were literally called an accidental muscle car wearing a cardigan. They were secretly packing 260 horsepower Corvette engines right under that fake wood paneling. They were built to haul 5,000-pound trailers without even breaking a sweat, all while dropping the kids off at soccer practice and quietly humiliating sports cars at stoplights. Section 4, Killed by a Loophole. But here's the thing. Despite the power, the utility, and the sheer nostalgia, the station wagon didn't lose a fair fight. It didn't suddenly just become useless. It was essentially deleted by a footnote in a fuel law.
In the 1970s, responding to the oil crisis, Congress passed the Corporate Average Fuel Economy, or CAFE, standards. Station wagons were classified as passenger cars, which meant automakers had to heavily restrict their engines to meet these strict new fuel economy and emissions rules. But SUVs and minivans? Well, because they were built on truck frames, they were classified as light trucks, and this meant they were subject to much, much more lenient rules. Automakers were effectively handed a free pass to just build less efficient SUVs instead.
The devastating effect of that regulatory loophole completely inverted the market. Just look at this shift. In 1980s, sedans and wagons made up about 83% of the vehicles sold in America. Today, that has entirely flipped. Automakers quickly realized it was vastly easier and far more profitable to build trucks and SUVs than it was to spend billions re-engineering heavy station wagons just to meet strict passenger car standards.
The irony here is almost too perfect to be true. In 1996, the last great, full-size, rear-wheel drive American station wagons, the Buick Roadmaster and the Chevy Caprice, were discontinued. And why? Because General Motors needed their factory. The Arlington, Texas plant was completely retooled to build the exact full-size SUVs that were currently killing the station wagon in the marketplace.
Section 5. The Secret Afterlife. But wait, here is the ultimate plot twist in our story. If you look at American roads today, you might think the station wagon is completely extinct. But the truth is, it never actually died at all. Automakers realized a really profound truth. Americans didn't actually hate the shape or the function of the wagon. They just hated the word wagon. I mean, it sounded boring. It sounded exactly like their parents' car. So in 1995, Subaru figured out the cheat code. They took their standard legacy station wagon, lifted the suspension a few inches, bolted on some tough-looking plastic body cladding, and called it the Outback. They successfully rebranded the station wagon as an adventurous lifestyle vehicle, and they sold them by the millions. When you look at the DNA of today's best-selling vehicle segment, the crossover SUV, it completely proves that it is just a station wagon wearing a new costume. They are both built on car platforms, they both have a two-box design with a long roof, and they literally both do the exact same job of hauling families and gear. The shape America supposedly walked away from for being way too boring, it's actually exactly what we're all driving today. We just lifted it a couple of inches. So yeah, the station wagon was a victim of changing tastes, sure, but mostly it was outmaneuvered by a fuel chart and an accountant. Yet in the very end, its design won out anyway. So the next time you walk out to your driveway to look at your sleek, rugged, modern crossover SUV, ask yourself, did the American station wagon really disappear? Or did we just peel off the fake wood, lift the suspension, and stop saying its name?